welcome to the fifth in our series of 6 clips that are talking about different leadership styles with some reference to emotional intelligence, and definitely in the context of where we are right now, where we are looking at shifting and rapidly changing work patterns. I'm going to be very honest with you and say that the next two, and this one, coercive leadership style, is probably one of the ones that sits least easily with me. And one of the things I guess we have to be quite aware of as people in organisations with a leadership role is to know who we are, and to understand that sometimes we're going to have to step into a style, into a role that isn't where we reside naturally. However, I think I've spoken before about having heart and backbone. There are occasions where we have to display some robust resilience, and so this is where we're going to have to go with this now. So let's take a look at some of the features of where we might use coercive leadership. The clue's in the word, really, isn't it? I mean, this isn't about a debate in society. This is about getting it done, and getting it done pretty quickly.
Right, so we've reached a situation where maybe we've inherited a place where we need to have some pretty rapid response, pretty rapid turnaround, some movement, and we are experiencing resistance here, or we're seeing some behaviours in teams or individuals that we don't need to see, we don't want to see. We may have tried one of the other 4 approaches, or a combination of the other 4 approaches. We're not getting where we need to be here, so we're now effectively drawing some boundaries and saying, look, here's a criteria in which you are expected to perform, here are the outcomes I'm looking for, and we can escalate it past that if we're not seeing what it is we want. So we're actually cutting down on the sort of margins for debate, discussion. Maybe we could, maybe I should. We're actually sort of using this process to indicate that current performance, past performance, has not been good enough. The leader or the person in the leadership role is taking ownership of defining what that performance should be, obviously within the context of the direction the organisation is heading in anyway. And we are stating as well, I think it's really important that we have some time-based criteria added here. It can't carry on forever. It will burn people out. That said, you need to give people time to adjust to and to respond to the demands you're making of them. And I say demands rather than requests here. And so if we're heading down this road, look at the image here. So if we're heading down this road, here are the skills and competencies you're going to have to look for in yourself or to develop in yourself. We need to keep our eye on the prize here. This is about achievement, hence the importance of setting some very clear performance criteria. You have to be driven. It's a high energy process. It's quite demanding. It's requiring you to be not only on the ball but also one step ahead of the game, to extend that metaphor as far as I think it needs to go. It's going to require some quite creative thinking. It's going to require some initiative from you as to how we're best going to motivate people and keep them going under quite oppressive, quite coercive circumstances. As I say, the clue's in the name. And of course there's going to be resistance to it. And for you, a skill, a competence to acquire is some emotional self-control, so that we're actually focusing on the performance criteria and on the behaviour that's taking us to achieving those performance criteria, and not the person. Now, that's really important because there are times that we're going to get angry, we're going to feel let down, and some of that anger might be focused inwards on ourselves. Let's see if we can just control that, and remember, we're focusing on process and purpose here. And in order to do that, we have to keep some emotional clarity ourselves. So bear with me if you will, and join me once more in my imaginary classroom where the kids ask, well, what have we got to do this for? Okay, let's see, shall we? We're going to make a negative impact on the work climate here, and by negative I mean there are some things going on that we want to stop. And we're using it because we're now in a crisis. We're using it because right now we haven't got the time, it's not the context to be debating the rights and wrongs of this situation. It's a time for movement, it's a time for action. Now, let's just clarify this. The action should be leading you towards meeting the ethical goals of the organisation you're working for. This isn't about meeting unethical goals. We use it because performance at the moment hasn't been good enough. It's not taking us where we need to go. And once again, the importance, the primacy of setting performance criteria is absolutely imperative here. We've used the word problem employees. This isn't about people who we don't like. The important thing is, let's go back to the previous slide. This is about using our emotional control to say, look, it actually doesn't matter whether I like you or not. It's about, can we reach a performance standard here in terms of your outcomes or in terms of the behaviours that are leading you there, that allow me to say, that's okay, that's exactly what we're working for. We're part of a team. Within that team, where there's obviously going to be leadership, and there's obviously going to be people within that team with whom we don't get on, as well as others. That's life, and there is a matter that at that moment I find myself saying we just have to live with that, but that shouldn't stop us from focusing on what it is we want and need from people on our team to help us meet sometimes some very challenging outputs. So to reflect, we are trying to establish some boundaries here. We're establishing our own role and we're focusing on outputs. What we're also doing, if we've stated the improvement criteria, clearly we're giving ourselves an opportunity to re-engage productively with people when they've reached that criteria.
Okay, so coercive leadership style, and you can almost feel kind of the downward pressure that's going on there. We're closing your options down to get it wrong here. We're setting clear performance criteria, and you're going to have, I think maybe something that not included there, I think critical to this is regular structured feedback. If we're doing regular structured feedback, we have an opportunity to say, actually, I'm seeing what I want here. Thanks very much indeed for that. And we can reward that. And I don't mean financial rewards. I mean the rewards of offering some personal warmth, saying that is a job well done, and maybe eliciting from people, how do you feel about that now that we seem to be getting there? So I see it as a maybe not something I would choose to do, but something if we have to do, we might as well try to think about the positives we can take out of it. And this just might be pivotal in enabling you to restore or rebuild a relationship with a team or an individual where it hasn't gone so well. Let's remember the name again, coercive. This is about downward pressure. It's about leaders taking control and saying, this is why I need it done.